We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And this is FONZI.
And welcome to the Content is Profit podcast.
In here, you're going to get the insights, accountability, and drive to create consistently and increase revenue.
You'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a good time.
The goal of this podcast is simple: to entertain, educate, and turn your content into profit.
Let's go. Welcome, everybody. I am happy that we're back.
In front of the camera. You miss the camera.
I do. This week has been a little rough. For those who don't know, my wife is out of town in Italy having fun with her friends, and I'm home with the two kiddos. Yes,
and
she deserves every second of that vacation.
She keeps sharing pictures of food.
I know.
And it looks amazing.
It looks delicious.
I'm tired of my rice and beans and chicken. That's all I eat over here.
She was like, I understand why people outside of the U.S. are happier and live a healthier lifestyle. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. But anyways, enough of that. FONZI, what are we talking about today?
Oh, today we got a pretty good, I feel like, spectrum of topics. We're going to be talking about marketing a unicorn startup.
A billion-dollar company, by the way.
And also B2B demand generation engines.
Ooh,
I mean, today's guest is so experienced in marketing that this conversation can go anywhere. And we're just going to, lean into the curiosity to see what's going to happen.
That's right. Guys, if you're enjoying this show, especially the solo episodes that FONZI has been dropping so good, you can let us know too. Like, you like FONZI's episodes, you like Luisa's episodes, you like interviews. Let us know.
Pick a bro.
Pick a bro.
Let the competition begin.
That's right. But you can follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform. Make sure you hit that follow button, and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and, of course, leave an honest review.
That's right. So I love when we bring experienced marketers into the Content is Profit family, especially when they're running a marketing for a unicorn tech startup.
Ooh, that's right. Today's guest is the personality behind SaaSfluent and the head of marketing of unicorn status startup Currency Cloud.
Not to mention that she is the very first Siberian we ever had on the podcast. Look at us expanding our horizons, although she has been living in the U.S. for years now.
I know, we gotta ask her, is she American already? Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
Yeah.
And how my good friends from the other side of the world would say, and I might butcher this one, Potriasayushia, which I think it means awesome. Please welcome the queen of emojis herself, Elena Hassan.
Hi, guys.
What's up, Elena?
Welcome to Content is Profit.
Well, thank you for having me. This is great.
Elena, did I pronounce that properly, or did I totally say not appropriate word?
No, it wasn't inappropriate. I could make out what you said. You did all right.
Let's go.
You did all right.
Hey, I'm 2 words into Russian now. Soon I'll be fluent.
Yeah.
You never know, yeah.
And I want to say I'm super stoked to have this conversation, right? This is probably going to be a multi-part at some point, because I'm sure there's a lot that we have to uncover. But I've been creeping on your Instagram. You have pretty awesome content in there. But also, I'm very curious, right? You're like the very first person that runs marketing for $1 billion company that we have on the show. I'm very curious, and I would love to know, like, how do you end up there?
That's an interesting question. Not due to fault of my own. I somehow always, when I started my marketing career and I finished my college degree, I went to work for a tech company, and from one to another, and end up just staying with tech. And all of the tech companies, or most of the tech companies, are startups. So you're always betting on them making that, making that exit, making that $1 billion in valuation. And being junior, you hop around because you don't really you really want to grow your career versus like staying with the company for forever. And once I landed in Currency Cloud in a leadership role, it ended up being a huge success.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I noticed something on your website on SaaSfluent that I read it and I was like, she's one of us. We are family. You actually started selling T-shirts. We did so as well. Like, that was literally we started with stickers and then we transitioned with T-shirts. So I'm curious, like, what was that transition like for you from, the hustle of, selling T-shirts to then transition into the tech marketing world specifically?
Yeah, sure. So I came to the United States when I was 20, and I spent the summer in Jersey, on Jersey Shore, and in town called Wildwood. And at 20, I thought it was like the best place. It was so much fun, so many friends.
Yeah.
And the jobs that were available there were on the boardwalk. Like I did henna tattoos, selling t-shirts, whatever was there. That's basically what we were doing. And then once the summer came to a close, I realized that, well, it's probably not a career place for me. It's probably not something I could do for a long time. And I had my sights set on New York. And because I came here while I was there, I came here, did the touristy stuff, and I just fell in love with the city. I was like, that's it. New York is where I want to be.
Wow.
Came fall, and I moved to New York. And
that's because you haven't experienced Jacksonville, Florida. I'm just gonna put that out there, you know. You're just gonna say
I am fully aware. Yeah, it's probably true. But once I moved to New York, it was kind of, I'm like, okay, I waitress for a little bit, and then I realized, okay, I cannot be around drunk people all the time because I will become an alcoholic myself. And I'm Russian. It's just not good for me. So
you can beat everybody, probably. You're like, yeah, give me that vodka. Yeah.
Pretty much. So what I ended up doing, I ended up getting a job as a receptionist at an office, and that happened to be, a tech company. At that time, I had no particular preference or anything. It was just a job, and my journey started from there. Yeah.
Wow, what a coincidence though that job was at the tech startup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tech startup, and I was doing all the admin stuff. And I think at some point, the CEO of the company came up to me and asked me, like, do you really like admin stuff? Do you see your career growing in admin? And I was thinking to myself, like, ordering ShopRite and starting fridges? No, not really.
Yeah.
And then they had a great program where they would pay for the employees' college education if they stood on at work, and that's how I ended up getting into college in New York and getting my degree.
That's so exciting. Okay, so I see a lot of parallels, like Fonzi said, right? Like from the t-shirts and the hustle and the things, and we call them killing tigers.
And the almost alcoholic story too, because we used to have a podcast called Brews and Bros. That if we would have keep doing,
for us, it's all about the rum, not the vodka. You're saying
this would have been an alcoholics non-anonymous podcast over here.
But you go into the startup, venture capital world, like where like you guys are chasing like this big exit, right? Providing solutions, right? And we go into the bootstrapping world. So I'm very curious, right? Like when you make this jump into this company, right? At first as a startup, right? I'm sure you're pretty scrappy, right? And then when you start running the marketing side, you're pretty scrappy. You have like limited resources, or I don't know how that world likes. I'm very excited to like get to know a little bit of that world, and then that transition into a unicorn, right? When you guys get that big investment from Visa, like what changed? So let's go into the scrappy side first. Like what are some of the things that you guys were doing that's pretty interesting, either content wise or marketing in general?
Yeah. Well, again, like you noted, right? Like when you're little, you have to do everything yourself. Your marketing team is one person or two people, or maybe you don't even have a marketing team. You're doing your best. So you're all kind of wearing multiple hats, doing multiple things. But because there's so much stuff to do, you usually don't step on each other's toes because there's so much work to go around. It will never be done, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And this is why I guess like it's great for young marketers who are looking for career in marketing to join small companies, because you get to learn marketing operations and marketing automation and Salesforce, all of the things that you could put in content creation and social media, because you'll be thrown around and like event management, all of those things that you're going to have to do or know, or at least touch, so you can actually learn what you enjoy most. So I think I had that luxury, which was great. And I think bootstrap business, again, it's more about making it work. not having it perfectly figured out, but like doing something, right? Like just going ahead and taking that leap and just constantly doing and doing and doing. And sometimes it's just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Basically, that kind of marketing is what kind of marketing usually startups do. And sometimes you need to do that before you realize like what message resonates, like how you're supposed to go about it. Because I think there is this I think there's always this pressure on founders or marketing leaders in small startup. Like, I need to figure it out. Like, I need to know. Like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna spend 3-hour workshop, and I'm gonna know. And then, no, you're not gonna know. You have to be okay to go with the flow and literally see where you could find more leverage. Just keep doing what you're doing and monitor things and test things and optimize things.
Do you remember one of those specific spaghettis that you threw into the wall and stuck? Like, can you share with us like maybe one or two strategies that you guys use that really, worked?
Yeah. So one of the strategies that I that I came up with and we started doing that worked really, really well as so I'm a head of marketing for Currency Cloud in North American region. It is the company that came to the US from the UK. So what happened was that we were trying to sell European product to US audience without any kind of product market fit or understanding market kind of landscape in the US. So we needed to do something, but we had no money to make big splurge or spend a lot of money on events and things like this. So I knew that we need to do content that's consistent. We need to, again, if we do content, we're going to get SEO, we're going to get demand gen up. We needed to do brand awareness. We needed to develop our internal thought leaders in our team here in North America, not in the UK, but the ones that here know the market better. So all of these things had to be done with very limited resources. So for us, again, it was more about, is there that one thing that can give us all of this to some degree, right? And that thing became a podcast because it basically forced us to produce consistent content, not like whenever we can write a blog, but weekly podcast that created for us like multiple formats of content, right? It's videos, it's audio, it's snippets, it's a blog because we transcribed kind of each episode and posted it as blogs as well. So it created so much, it helped us generate so much content on very good topics that are in line with our target audience and helped us also meet our kind of prospective customers, right? Invite them as guests, have very non-threatening conversations with them about like, what do they care about in their world? It's very hard sometimes to reach that target audience and immerse yourself in their day-to-day. And this was a perfect excuse, non-salesy, non-threatening way to keep that communication going with our target audience. And that was something that really helped us out.
That's awesome.
Wow. You nail all the points that we like preach on Content is Profit every single time, which is...
This was not pre-planned, people. If you think like this was not pre-planned at all.
At all. You talk about the leverage that podcasting has. Of course, you need that element of consistency that comes down to showing up at the end of the day. But you can leverage, like you said, that macro piece of content to then create so many other pieces of content and distribute them in other mediums, right? So you can reach a broader audience. But the most important piece right here, I think that a lot of people, especially in B2B, they just don't see it yet, or it just flies under the radar, is access to your target audience or access to your customers, and then building those key relationships that then you can develop into something else, right? Exactly. And I was about to ask you that because I noticed that I think you started the podcast in 2017. I was actually curious on whether you started the podcast before working with the company or once you were with the company, but I think you answered that.
Once I was with the company.
Once you were with the company. And I'm curious on how was that decision made, right? Because like you said, you guys had to try a lot of different things here and there. How did you sell the idea to the company of like, hey, let's do the podcast?
Well, it was interesting because I was hired as a marketing person and like, okay, you have to do all these things. And at that time it was just me and one more person on the marketing team here. And she was busy creating white papers and blogs. She was in charge of PR and all these things, so she was busy doing her thing. So I was like, how am I as one person? I can't possibly create enough email nurtures and blogs and all of this stuff. It's kind of like, it's impossible to churn out so much original content. And And then also like there's no consistency. And I know myself, you know, it's very easy to drop the ball. Like you do like few blogs and then you take a break for 3 months. You know, that's how it's the nature of the beast. Or where, and again, like the amount of money that I had at my disposal was very limited. I couldn't afford big ticket shows or conferences and have a booth there or pitch for speaking engagements, and nobody knows my team. Like they're never gonna get the speaking engagement there. Everybody's like, "You're kind of like who?" No, we want at least your CEO to come and join, right? Like or something like this. So it became easy for me to pitch because I was able to explain how under one umbrella, and yes, it's a commitment, and we had to hire a team that would production team that helped us with like producing and cutting and editing and all that stuff. But with this one thing, we're gonna achieve so many things. And guess what? Like a couple of years after doing the podcast, each co-host that was a part of the podcast, they started getting invited to conferences for free. I didn't have to pay anything anymore. And they build their own personal brands this way, you know, like some of them are still at the company, some of them are not, but now they have their own podcasts too. So it became a thing now.
Yeah. You did mention that kind of like briefly, that part of it, you know, was developing thought leadership within the company. And I think a lot of people miss that. I feel like a lot of people now see it as, I need to be the face of the company just because we need content and somebody needs to be out there. But it's not talked as thought leadership, right? Like we want people when they think about, I don't know, you're going to have to explain a little bit about Currency Cloud, but you know, when they try to think about those solutions, they're going to think about, oh, cool, Elena is the person I want to talk to. She's the person that has the answers. Now, I'm extremely curious about this question, and we've talked about ROI with podcasting, that it takes time. It's not something that you're gonna see results overnight. It's not paid ads, right? That you can track, you know, customer acquisition, all these things. So how that part of the conversation, how did it go, right? Because we have that same conversation with, you know, people that we're trying to help, and they're like, okay, cool, I'm sold on a podcast, but when am I going to see results, right? Am I going to see results next week? I was like, hey, it's a journey, my friend. It's a journey, right? We've been doing this for 3 years, and you know, the ball's now gaining some momentum. So how do you present that idea to your business?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? It's almost a mentality change where you are a bootstrap business. There are like 50 different things that you could be doing, but you have to choose 3, because if you're not focused, you're never going to succeed, right? And for me, the podcast was that one thing. You know, what is that one thing that I could focus myself and my team and my budget on that's going to give me so many benefits? There wasn't any other things available to me. I also come from a very strong like performance marketing background where, you know what, if I cannot see a clear ROI, I'm not going to do it because it's not right or it's BS or something, right? And I basically ate my own words at some point, because I went into this idea thinking that I will be able to prove ROI. I did convince my team that I will, because I was like, well, listen, if we're going to keep talking to our prospective customers, this is a way to build relationships, to get our foot in the door, and then we're going to start closing these deals and all this kind of stuff. Yep. And then what happened was that, you know, obviously we're B2B fintech. It's a little different. You know, the journey between the beginning of the deal and the close of the deal is long, right? It's not that easy to say that one thing is what sold it.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust. I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I can't have like this clear understanding that everybody who we talked to on the podcast, because of the podcast, we closed the deal. So that went out of the window. But then what I realized is that, you know, some of the brand activities that you do, or brand awareness activities that you do, you may not be able to track ROI, but it doesn't mean you have to overlook them, because your brand recognition, your digital footprint with producing so much content online is giving you, you know, and again, like any post or blog post, you can track, you know, the traffic there. That's kind of easy to say. You may not be able to pinpoint it to specific sale, but you know that people are interested, people are reading, consuming your content.
Yeah.
I think it was also, you know, just understanding that what we started using it for is like every time we sign a new client, we started inviting them to the podcast to talk about not why they bought Currency Cloud. No. But talk about, what it is that you do, what keeps you up at night, what's going on in your life. How do you try to solve the problems that you need to solve? And most likely these peers, they cross reference.
Yeah.
If they're in the same segment, they tend to listen to each other. And so it means our prospective customers now listen to this podcast, they're like, oh, well, this guy is having exactly the same issues that I'm having. This is how they're solving it. And again, like on silver lining is probably talk to Currency Cloud.
Yeah.
So it was a great way to get those customer, almost not testimonials, but join our brand together with our customer brand, which in a lot of cases were bigger brands than ours. And it gave us a lot of brand awareness.
Yeah, I love this, right? Because for us, we also did that exercise, right? We got to a moment where we're like, is this actually the thing that's driving the business, right? And it came down to a mindset work that we had to do, because it's like, do we actually believe that this is driving it, right? And obviously it is, like, because we're developing the relationships. Obviously there's a follow-up process that happens after. There's like this machine around it, right? But you mentioned a few elements like relationship building with your current clients, right? Like if you're on a month to month, if these clients you depend on them for X amount of time, right? Like we were able to very quickly go from a 3-month lifetime value to 6 months, and soon to 8 months, and then to 9 months, right? And that obviously translates into revenue for the company, right? So it's a way not only for the front end on your platform, like lead gen or relationship building or prospecting, right? But also becomes this amazing tool on the back end to build a relationship with your current customers, to get referrals, to be like, okay, show testimonials. And I was writing here as you were explaining, what's a formula, right? Like how can we measure like these things? And for some people it's worth millions of dollars, right? For others are maybe thousands of dollars. For some others, unfortunately, is worth zero, right? We're on the boat of $1 million, right? Because guess what? Like this is not just for today. This is for the next 10 years that we're building. This is like a very solid base.
And think about it too, like in a way that it's almost a user-generated content, which is the best content you can possibly have, right? It happens, the conversation flows, that your prospect or whatever, your target audience person is saying all the things that they are saying. And because a lot of times for startups to start creating content that's serving their target audience may be a little difficult, because you are selling them a tool, but you're not in their shoes. You don't know their issues, right? You almost have sometimes no credibility to talk about the topics that they care about, because you don't know these topics. You're not them. Yeah. But when you have your target audience come to your show, create this user-generated content, you basically creating this content for your target audience without having any credibility, and you're able to do it without sounding bogus or weird or like you don't know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So I have two possible roads here that I want to go to. So I'm having an internal challenge on deciding which question to ask, but I kind of want to use a line of your own playbook here and ask you now, what are the challenges that a unicorn marketing team has, right? Like, what are some of the things that you guys are struggling with? I noticed that your podcast is still very, very active, and I think is one of still the pillar strategies that you guys are doing. But I'm very curious on like what, once you get that influx of cash, of resources, right? I'm sure now you guys can invest in other pieces for a marketing team, grow your marketing team. Yeah, what are the challenges now?
Yeah, well, so podcast has become a thing, and it's no longer in my hands. It became a global thing that serves the whole of global team now. Not just it was a desperate move for US, but it became like a thing for the whole company.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And since we had like investment rounds and injection of cash, so we have been growing, right? We didn't wait to become a unicorn to grow, which is good. So the team is quite big, but at some point, yes, you like when you scrappy, you do things and you start using some tools, or you have kind of like almost zero processes as to how you generate or do things. And then as you get bigger, the biggest question that you constantly asking yourself is, how do we scale? Like everything that we do now, how do we scale, right? Like if you decide to do a podcast, you're like one person talking to people, great. But now to serve global team, we have incubators in France, in Germany, in Spain, in the UK, in APAC region. How do you scale podcasts so they can have the podcast as well in their own language under the same like show name, right? Like, so these are the questions that now become more prominent. Or in terms of like any technology that you onboard, like marketing automation or CRM or even social media tools, right? Like, how do you scale that as well? So this is, I think, these are the challenges that you deal with once you hit that growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the
Absolutely.
most part.
Sounds like the scalability side of things is like, okay, how do we just keep it growing? And I find it very interesting
Exactly.
because, you know, we're big fans of watching YouTube and they, you know, the creator economy. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's this pretty big creator in there called Mr. Beast. And what he started doing was actually dubbing and adding subtitles to all of his videos and creating channels in Spanish or Japanese. And, you know, to an extent, I see the relationship there between the creator economy, how he's trying to scale by leveraging his existing content into other audiences, right? And you guys are pretty much doing the same, leveraging the existing content of the podcast that you guys already have, which is the pillar, into other audiences by, you know, expanding the horizons with languages and all that stuff. I think that is very interesting.
Yeah, that's the key. And sometimes you come to a point where certain strategies don't work anymore, and you need to abandon them, or maybe agencies that support you before, freelancers that helped you before, I don't know, like you outgrew them. So you go through this chain of like, you know, renewing your support system and the resources that you use into more like bigger scale
Absolutely.
companies.
So is now your role is more of the management of like these resources and how you're placing people and all that stuff?
Well, thankfully, I have a team now, so yes. So yes, most of the time the team is in charge of things, but I'm just overlooking the strategy and making sure they have everything they need to be successful.
Absolutely. That's good. Definitely something we need to, I especially need to work more on that. I have a challenge of letting things go, you know, and delegating, which is so key when you're trying to grow.
It's funny, like we on our service, the team has been growing, and we have this project manager now that's like, we hired him to free FONZI, right? And today in our daily huddle, folks like, man, I feel so disconnected, right? And I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But for him, maybe the bad thing for us is like really good, because like bottleneck, you know, we cannot be the bottlenecks.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage everybody, right? Like if you're you know, planning with your content team on that transition, if it's just you, right? Like the story that Elena just shared with being scrappy to that growth mode, which eventually as a business, right? That's where we want to get, whether that's an investment, whether that's a loan that you get, whether that's like an influx of cash from your clients and you decide to hire. These are important steps. So what are some things that we can account for, right? Make sure that your processes are well documented. Make sure that you have a clear vision for the team, and make sure that that's shared across the whole department. Make sure that, you know, they understand, they run through that process. And it's super important, right? And if you, for some reason, shameless plug, if you need help on your content team, on fractional content team, give us a call. That's what we actually do. So super exciting. Elena, we have a few minutes, right? I think we have a few minutes still. I'm very curious. I'm very excited that you're actually developing a personal brand as well. So
dude, you read my mind. I was like, bro, I want to go there. I want to go into the personal brand side of things.
And FONZI has it pulled up right now. And I love it. I absolutely love it. New York is very present, right? Like the things, your key pillars are there. So you're an amazing executive, right, in this unicorn company, but why the decision of developing your personal brand?
I think I mean it was like, I think it was like a 2020 thing when all of a sudden you don't commute to the office, you have so much more time on your hands, and it gave me an opportunity to think a little bit, what do I enjoy doing? And especially, like I mentioned, now I do less of the doing things, right? It's more just being there and making sure everybody's successful and they have what they need. And then I realized, you know, when you work for one company, and again, I'm a hired employee, right, for a company. I'm fully vested in the culture and everything. But I feel like I know all these things, and I was fortunate enough in life to go through the experiences, to work with really, really brilliant people and great teams, and like make my own mistakes and learn some things, what works, what doesn't work. But if I were to say like, oh, I want to help another tech company with this, right? And if I were to just get another job, it means I'm helping one company at a time, right? I'm helping one person at a time. So I was thinking, how do I do one to many? Like, how do I somehow scale? I mean, I didn't quite figure that one out. I just started my my blog on Instagram and started posting content in hopes that, like, even if it reaches few more people and helps them to, because sometimes I talk to people and they're like, okay, everything you say makes sense because I was thinking about it, but I just wanted somebody with marketing degree and who knows marketing to tell me that I'm on the right track.
Yeah, reassurance.
So exactly, even if it's this, that like, okay, whatever you're thinking about is the right thing to do. I just felt like this need to be able to serve the marketing community or tech community. They've given me a lot, and I want to give back.
It's very inspiring, by the way, and super exciting. Like I think in the world that we live today, right? Like you as a person or as an entrepreneur or as an employee, right? You are your own brand. Right? You bring your personality, you bring your unique abilities, your unique things into this world, right? And then we're seeing this transition of like, okay, I'm helping this company, right? But at the same time, if that company is not serving me as an individual, right? I have the choice to move. And at the end of the day, it's like in this world that is run by media, we have to develop that personal brand, right? So it's funny, like for us, like BIZBROS has become that personal brand. It's two of us combining to that one thing, right? The service called Content Momentum, different things, but we've seen the benefit of that at this early stage. I'm curious, right, on your side, what was the least friction point for you to start that personal brand, right? Because here's the people that we get a lot of people that listen to the show that are transitioning. Maybe they're in the job, right? They're like starting to develop that personal brand, that podcast, that platform, right? But there's still a lot of friction on creating this. It's very overwhelming.
Sometimes their business is just very tied to their personal brand.
Exactly. Or maybe they're in this job and they want to do it on the side, just like you're doing, right? So first, like, did you encounter some friction kind of pitching this to the company, right? Like, hey, are you okay with me doing this? And then what was like a least friction point for you to start? Like how were you able to start it consistently?
Yeah. So, well, I believe that everybody has to have their own personal brand. And I have basically became a champion at Currency Cloud, driving my US team or sales team, especially, like, guys, you have to be out there, because I would watch them talk about like this super smart, crazy things in the room and like bouncing ideas and being amazing. And then they would leave the room, they would go home, and nobody will ever know how smart they are and all the things that they know. And I was like, guys, if you take even like 2 sentences out of this conversation and post it online, do you know how many people you're gonna, first of all, you're gonna help them. You're gonna help them understand who you are, and that next time when you are on the sales call, you have something to say. They're gonna be like, "Oh, I know this guy. He talks about really cool stuff. I wanna talk to him."
Yeah.
You know. So I kind of started that whole conversation at Currency Cloud, and then I looked at myself and I was like, "Well, I'm telling people to do that, but why am I not doing this?"
Yeah.
And I think the least friction is that. Well, for example, for me, right, if you are at a company, the company probably has culture and values and something that you do, this common goal that you have organized yourself to achieve. So the easiest way is to talk about it, right? Like, not just keep repeating your brand broadcasting LinkedIn posts that people do, but like share the same news, but in your own words. Like, guys, I am excited we're rolling out this product because this is what I did for it, or this was my play in it, right? Like, do your thing. Nobody wants to hear like you repeat what other people said. You can reshare the same thing, but add something of your own. Like, how do you feel about it, right? Like, it's all about the feelings. So that was the easy one for me, because I subscribe to every value that Currency Cloud drives, and that's why I started coming out and be like, well, this is how it should be. And it was easy for me, right? And it's great when you have a brand behind you that you could leverage for your personal growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I see, you know, I'm noticing more and more that people want to see portfolios and personal brands and not so much of the curriculums itself, right? I feel like curriculums are out, portfolios and personal brands are in, like when I meet somebody and, when they have some sort of interest on either collaborating or doing stuff together, I don't ask them for their curriculum. I'm like, let me check your social media, right? That's exactly what I did, when I saw your form come in. I mean, my brother was the one that had a conversation with you, but I personally didn't know about you. So what did I do? I immediately went to your website. I immediately went to your Instagram. I started seeing a lot of the reels that you're doing, which are great. And go check her out. She is great at doing her Instagram reels. Lots of value.
There's one big nugget I take for me. Fonzie, we need influencer pictures, man.
We need influencer pictures. I know. She got all these cool pictures in New York in her website.
I know. I need to get in shape first. Because my dad bod is not friendly with the camera.
Hey, so some people love the dad bod.
I just need the bomber jacket, hiding the rolls.
Elena, and another thing that I wanted to share was I see this kind of like intersection between personal brand for people that are already inside of a company and a sort of evangelist program. And the evangelist program is not our idea. I actually learned this from another company called Sweetfish. And they do this a really good job where they actually have a core group of people inside of the company that they incentivize and they motivate for them to become thought leaders and have their own personal brands. But their personal brands are very attached to the company, right? So then that is driving traffic, it's driving awareness, right? Yeah. Top of funnel attention, whatever it is. But I feel like if those people decide to leave the company, they still would have such a powerful, strong personal brand that they could potentially do whatever they want.
100%. And I think, if you are with the company and you have the opportunity to be that evangelist, you absolutely should do it because, it's comfortable, right? Like you were talking about what you know most. It's very easy. And what I would always encourage, like, be authentic, like just be you, like say things that, within the realm of normal, right? Not crazy stuff, but be you, be authentic. And yes, you're not going to retire from the company that you're working for, especially in the tech startup world, unless you founded it. But then if you switch a company, your audience knows you. They're going to follow you and they're going to listen to your stuff from other company, right? Like because they're not subscribing to your company's mantra. They're subscribing to you and what you're feeding them in terms of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. We're coming here close to the end. I think we got to, come into the closing segment. But before we go to that one, I have the question that everybody has been waiting for. Elena, are you ready?
What's your favorite food in New York? No, I'm kidding. That's not it.
That's not it. That's a decent question, but I think we can explore that once we go visit to New York. We've never been to New York.
Oh, you guys have to come on.
I've heard that so many times. People are like, you got to go to New York. You got to go to New York.
What's the best season to go to New York?
Probably spring.
Yeah.
Or fall. Okay. Yeah. You don't want to be there in the heat.
No.
Or the cold.
There's no beach. There's no relief there.
Makes a lot of sense.
All right. So I'm going to go with the question. Here it goes. What is your favorite emoji?
Ooh. My favorite emoji is probably the one with one eye closed and tongue out.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Interesting. What was the meaning of that one?
I don't know. I feel like I could put it into anything, like cool, funny, or wink. And
I'm gonna try it whenever.
Funny, that's all I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna try that one. Whenever I'm mad with my brother, I'm gonna say something, something mean, and then I'm gonna put that one. I feel like it'll diffuse the tension a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. It works for anything, for something cool, and for something mean, and for something funny.
Yeah. That's good. Multi-purpose.
Question on the last question of the show, right? Like we can have the emoji question like 24/7. I'm a big fan. I write all my emails. Like I could be like emoji only and I can understand. But
I love emojis too.
Where would you be if you did not publish?
Where would I be if I would?
If you did not publish.
What do you mean did not publish?
You didn't start the podcast, or maybe now not starting your personal brand.
Oof. I don't know. I think I I would do it. I would do it. I would do it in some other way. I needed some publicity. I needed to be out. I needed to be talking to people and doing me and getting out of the box of cubicle or corporate and doing something more. And I think if I didn't start my blog, I would probably join some. Maybe there are a lot of groups like in New York, like Women in FinTech or Women in Tech. I would probably like subscribe to one of those organizations and try to be there and drive the agenda there.
I love it. I love how it is part of your identity at this point. You're like, I have to get my knowledge out into the world.
Yeah.
I think it became too tight, too stiff for me. And I was like, okay, that's it. I need to open up.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. I'm very excited about this episode and what it can do for people because you've lived that transition, right? Like from not being involved in a world like this to be very involved and scrappy to like the after of what a lot of people are looking for in like this, maybe a bigger company, right? And then developing your own personal brand. And I think I'm very honored to have met you, and this is super exciting. And we wish you all the best. Like, what's maybe a piece of advice, right? A very punctual piece of advice for somebody that's in that position, right? They want to develop their personal brand. And what's something that they can do today?
I think for everybody, bootstrapped, scaling, post-acquisition, or doing your own thing, you have to prioritize. You have to know your number one thing or number two things. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Prioritize always. Otherwise, it's difficult. It's it's mind melting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I felt that. I felt like that was personal, Elena. It's like prioritize, FONZI,
prioritize. I know we were just talking before jumping on the show. We're like, we need to do like a BIZBROS, FONZI and Luis retreat and talk about BIZBROS 2.0. What does that mean?
Talk about priorities.
Yeah. It's super exciting. So awesome. FONZI, anything else?
No, Elena, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you and, get involved in your world?
Sure. They can find me on Instagram at elena.sassfluent or on LinkedIn just as Elena Hassan or on my website, sassfluent.com. Reach out, say hello.
Awesome. Send her an emoji.
Thank you for having me. I sent me an emoji, exactly.
Not just an emoji, the emoji with the wink and the tongue out. That emoji, so she knows exactly where you came from.
I'll take a poop emoji.
That has to be the selfie for this one. That has to be the thumbnail. Like.
Yeah. We'll put the emoji in there. Guys, just make sure you scroll down on the notes. All the links are gonna be there. Please connect with Elena. Yeah. Send her the emoji and ask her any questions. She is so friendly. She is absolutely amazing. Thank you, Elena.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, bye, guys. Absolutely. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if Elena here helped you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.